Good morning, students. In the previous video, we had seen about the Fabry-Perot resonator cavity. So, how the resonant frequency is going to be produced and how amplification takes place in the Fabry using your Fabry-Perot resonator cavity we had seen. Now, in this video, we will be seeing about your distributed feedback laser diodes. So, distributed feedback laser diodes, in this case, we are not going to use your cleaved facets here. So, here in this case, we don't use your cleaved faces, and we are going to have the lacing action is going to be done with the help of your Bragg reflectors, where the Bragg reflectors are nothing but the gratings, or there is going to be a periodic variations of the refractive index which is going to be placed inside the fiber there or inside the diode. So here in this case, the laser diode is nothing but a multi-layer structure where this but there is going to be a periodic variation of the refractive index along the length of the diode there. So here in this case, here we are going to have your diode where these two are going to be the confinement layers, and the center region is going to be the active layer, and here we are going to have the lacing spot, and inside this, along the length of this laser diode, what we are going to do is we are going to place either a Bragg reflector, where this Bragg reflector is going to be designed in such a way that it is going to allow only one frequent wavelength component. One wavelength component will be reflected back and the remaining wavelength components will be passed out there. So only one wavelength will be selected to get the positive feedback there, or otherwise we can vary the refractive index along the length of the diode there. So by varying the refractive index, we can see that only one particular wavelength is going to be selected. So here you are going to have a one-dimensional interference grating, that is your Bragg scattering, and this grating is going to provide the optical feedback for the laser there. So here in your distributed feedback laser, we are not going to use two parallel mirrors to form the optical cavity. So here the grating what we are going to use is going to use as a frequency selective element, where we are going to have, it is going to act as at least one of the mirrors, and it is going to provide the feedback there. So here where it is going to reflect only one wavelength, so it is going to reflect that particular light back into the cavity to form the resonator there. So the grating is going to be constructed to reflect only a narrow band of wavelength, and it is going to produce a single longitudinal lacing diode there. So here, if the temperature of the device is going to vary, then in that case the pitch of the grating will also vary, because the pitch of the grating is going to depend on the refractive index of the temperature. It is going to be dependent on the refractive index there, and this refractive index is going to depend on temperature. So if the refractive index is going to vary, then automatically the wavelength of the light that is going to be reflected will also vary there. So here in this case, we say that the dependence is going to be caused by the changing in the semiconductor lasers band gap with temperature and thermal expansion. So here in this case, we are going to say that you are going to alter the temperature of the device. So if the temperature of the device is going to be altered, then the pitch of the grating is also going to change due to the dependence of the refractive index on temperature there. So in that case, this dependence is going to be causing a change in the semiconductor lasers band gap with temperature and thermal expansion. So here we are going to change the refractive index. So if the refractive index varies, it is going to alter the wavelength selection of the grating structure and thus the wavelength of the laser output. So in that case, we are going to produce a tunable diode laser there. So suppose if I am going to use an optical radiation, I am going to have an optical radiation within the resonance cavity of a laser is going to have a pattern of electric and magnetic field lines there. So which is going to define the modes of the cavity. The optical radiation which is going to be present within the resonance cavity of the laser is going to have a pattern of electric and magnetic field lines, and these electric and magnetic field lines are going to be called as the modes of the cavity. So we have two independent sets of transverse electric and transverse magnetic modes. So each sets of modes is going to have a longitudinal, lateral and transverse half sinusoidal variations of the electromagnetic fields along the major axis of the cavity there. So we'll see the three different modes there. So a longitudinal mode is nothing but it is going to be related to the length of the cavity there, and it is going to determine the frequency spectrum of the emitted radiation. So it is going to determine the frequency spectrum of the emitted radiation there. If the length of the cavity, that is the length of the cavity, is going to be greater than the lacing wavelength of 1 micrometer, then in that case we can say that many longitudinal modes exist. Next is we are going to go for lateral modes. So the lateral modes are nothing but it is going to lie in the plane of the PN junction. So it is going to lie in the plane of the PN junction. Then we can say that the modes are going to depend on the side wall preparation there. So it is going to depend on the side wall preparation and the width of the cavity there. And it is going to determine the shape of the lateral profile of the laser beam. Next is transverse beam modes. Transverse modes is nothing but it is going to be associated with the electromagnetic field, and the beam profile is going to be in the direction perpendicular to the plane of the PN junction. So here now we'll see what is going to be the laser operation and the lacing condition there. So here, to determine your lacing condition and the resonant frequencies, we should see the optical wave propagation is going to propagate along the longitudinal direction, that is the Z axis there. So in that case, the intensity of the light can be written as, the optical field intensity can be written as I of Zt. Z is along the Z axis we are going to see. So I of Zt is equal to I of Z into e power j omega t minus beta Z, where omega is nothing but the optical radiant frequency and beta is going to be the propagation constant. So now we are going to see how we are going to have what is the lacing threshold there. So here your lacing, when its lacing is going to happen is when the light amplification is going to be done by the process of your population inversion. So here the population inversion is going to be done by the process called a stimulated emission there. So a stimulated emission rate can be given as in a given mode is going to be directly proportional to the intensity of the radiation in that mode there. So here the radiation intensity at a photon energy h mu is going to vary exponentially with the distance z, and it's going to be amplified by a factor g and attenuated by a factor alpha. So here when a light is going to be incident, the radiation intensity of that photon energy h mu is going to vary exponentially with the distance z and amplified by this factor g and attenuated by this factor alpha bar. So here your optical amplification, we need to go for selected modes. So in selected modes we are going to go for the feedback mechanism of the optical cavity. So here we are going to have in the repeated passes, that is if I am going to take a partially reflecting mirrors, parallel mirrors, we are going to have the repeated passes between these two mirrors there. So in that case, a portion of the radiation that is going to be associated with these modes should have a high gain coefficient there. So when the high gain coefficient is going to be retained, then in that case further amplification during each trip is going to be done, taken care through the cavity. So here we are going to take, this is your cavity where we are going to have the two mirrors, where this mirror is going to have a reflectivity of R1 and this mirror is going to have a reflectivity of R2. So when a wave is going to be propagated along this, along between these two reflecting mirrors, it will be reflected back and it will be coming back. So in this case, the total distance, if I am going to see, it will go in this direction, again come back in this direction. So totally the distance between the two reflective mirrors is going to be L. So the total time it takes for the light to come back and go again is going to be totally 2L. So I can replace Z is equal to 2L. So now N1 is nothing but the refractive index inside the core, and N2 is the refractive index outside the core there. So I can write Z is equal to 2L because the light propagates in the forward direction and again returns back in the reverse direction there. So the total length is going to be 2L. So I of 2L is equal to I of 0 into R1 R2 exponential of gamma g of h mu minus alpha bar h mu into 2L. Replace that Z by 2L there. So here in this case G is your gain coefficient, gamma is nothing but the optical confinement factor, and this is nothing but the effective absorption coefficient there. And R is nothing but the reflectivity of the mirror, that is going to be given in terms of the refractive index of the core and the cladding. So it is n1 minus n2 by n1 plus n2 the whole square. So what is the lasing condition is the magnitude and the phase of the returned wave should be equivalent to those of the original wave. If it is going to be the magnitude and phase is going to be the same as that of the original wave, then the lasing is going to occur. So here we say that at lasing threshold, the steady state oscillation when it will take place is when the magnitude and the phase of this returned wave should be equivalent to that of the original wave there. So your I of 2L, that is the returned wave, should be equivalent to the original wave I of 0, and the exponential should be the same, that is the phase should be same, e power minus j2 beta L should be equivalent to 1. So suppose if I want to reduce the loss in the cavity, I should make the optical feedback stronger there. So how I can make the optical feedback stronger is by coating the facets with the dielectric material. I can see that there's going to be a loss there's going to be a reduction in the optical loss in the cavity. So the threshold gain and current density. So threshold gain and current density can be given as gamma GTH is equal to alpha bar plus 1 by 2L ln of 1 by R1 R2. So here your laser starts to lace, that is when it is going to start the lacing condition is if G is going to be greater than or equivalent to GTH. So for the laser structure which is going to have a strong carrier confinement, then the threshold current density for a stimulated emission can be approximated as GTH is equal to beta into JTH, where beta is going to be a constant that is going to depend on the specific device construction. So here now we are going to see the optical output versus your drive current there. So at low diode currents, you can see that this low diode currents is mainly because of the spontaneous emission there. So spontaneous emission happens only in the LEDs there. So in your LEDs, we can see that the spectral range and the lateral beam width of the emission is going to be broad. So here it is going to act like an LED. But after the lacing threshold, the current increases. So when the current increases, the spectral range and the beam width is going to be narrow with increase in current. So in that case, the lacing operation takes place. So at high power output, so when high power output means your current is going to be high. That is, your current is going to be increasing slowly, but the value of the optical power is going to be increasing there. So in that case, the slope of the curve is going to decrease. Why the slope of the curve is going to decrease is because of the junction heating. So now we are going to see that when I am going to have the longitudinal modes, there are going to be transverse modes also to be present. The transverse modes are going to be because of the one or more reflections of the propagating waves at the sides of the resonator cavity. So here in this case, to find the frequency spacing, what we are going to do is we are going to consider two successive modes of frequencies there, where the two successive modes are going to be taken as Vm-1 and Vm, where it is going to be represented as by the integers m-1 and m. So we can write m-1 is equivalent to 2ln by c into Vm-1. So at m-1 value, this is going to be the frequency value there. At m integer value, this is going to be the frequency spacing. This is the frequency. So here we want to find out what is the frequency spacing. So subtract these two terms. So if I subtract these two terms, this m and m will get cancelled. So it is going to be your m, that is equal to 1. So 1 is equal to 2ln by c Vm-1 minus m Vm. That is equivalent to 2ln by c into del v. This is nothing but the frequency spacing between the two modes. So del v is equivalent to c by 2ln. So in this case, if I am going to write this in terms of lambda, it is going to be del lambda is equivalent to lambda square by 2ln. So this is nothing but the transverse modes which are going to be present. This is the frequency spacing between the two modes there.